Hi guys, welcome back to the Flicks Files. For this video, I wanted to talk about not a particular movie, but movie novelizations. There was a big thing in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s especially, where movies, certainly big blockbuster movies, received novelizations of their story. So they would hire an author to write a short novel based on the screenplay of the movie. And these would normally be published in some instances, up to 2 months before the movie hit the cinema. And as a teenager, especially growing up in the 80s, I found these to be an invaluable source of spoilers for movies that I was excited about. As a movie lover, it's kind of odd. Maybe it's just the way my brain's wired and I'm just weird. But I never really cared so much about spoilers. I still don't really. I could have somebody explain a movie to me that they've seen and I haven't. And it wouldn't bother me at all if they told me how it ended. I could still watch it and fall in love with it, if it was a movie that appealed to me. I don't know why it doesn't bother me. I think because I know if it's a movie that I fall in love with, I'm going to be watching it more than once. So the thing of spoilers just doesn't really matter because, after I've watched it once, I know what's going to happen anyway. So any other viewing after that, it's by the by. I know what's going to happen. I'm just watching it because I enjoy the movie and I enjoy how it was made. But back in the day, when I was a teenager, it was spoilers, didn't really happen. There was no social media. Unless you actually met somebody or you knew someone close to you that saw the movie and they could explain to you what happened, the only way you would know what would happen without seeing the movie would be to buy the novelization. So suffice to say, when I was young, a lot of movies came out that I really was desperate to see. And in some instances, I would buy the book or get my parents to buy me the book. So I could read it before I saw the movie. So I knew, what the film was about before I saw it. And I always kind of got a kick out of that. So today's video is going to be going through the novelizations that I own, that I've kept all these years. There's a few that I've kind of bought recently off eBay for movies that I've always liked and thought, it'd be kind of fun to own the novelization of that because I knew that they'd done one. As I say, but the majority of them are ones that I bought back when I was a child. So, and I've still just kept them. I've just kept them on my bookshelf. And I thought it would be fun to just go through these books with you today on this video. So, so enjoy. Right, okay, I've got the books in a small pile next to me and I'm just going to go through them in front of the camera and show you the covers. Interestingly, the first one I've just picked up is the latest novelization that I actually bought, which was back in 2008, and it was the book of Kingdom and the Crystal Skull. Massive Indiana Jones fan, who isn't? And I was really excited to, watch this movie. And when I heard that they were doing a novelization of it, which was, kind of rare, even in 2008, I thought, I might just pick that up and read through it. The thing, as I said, with novelizations, they always came out up to a couple of months before the movie. So they're a good way of, picturing the film in your mind and getting to grips with all the story points. I don't really mind spoilers, even as a movie fan. I'm quite happy to just, see a review of a film and, know about spoilers going in. I know a lot of people don't like to have spoilers. That's why I'm very careful not to give them away on my channel. But yeah, that's the first book that I'm going to show you, and it's the newest one, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, written by James Rollins, an author that I'm not really familiar with. The next one, I bought this from new back in 1987. And all of these, you can assume I bought them on the year that the movie came out. There are a few exceptions that I since bought recently on eBay, which I will point out when we get to them. So this is a RoboCop, written by Ed Naha. I remember reading this before I saw the movie, and then I read it multiple times after I saw the movie. Great film, great book, a nice, fast, easy read. It's not a very long book, and it's a nice one to have in my collection. The next one is Orson Scott Card's The Abyss, based on the James Cameron screenplay. This is probably one of the best novelizations I've actually read. Orson Scott Card is quite a well-known science fiction author, I believe, and he did a real cracking job with this. It's more of a proper novel-sized book. It's a cut above your average novelizations. The one thing I will say about this book, I tend to like to keep things in nice condition. And this was in nice condition, but back in the very early 90s, I remember lending this copy to one of my work colleagues where I worked at the time, and they kept it for a few weeks, and they gave it back to me with a broken spine and a creased cover, which I wasn't too pleased about, but I never did buy another copy. I've still got my original. So yeah, that is a really good novelization. Probably in terms of, being a really good read and expanding on the screenplay, this is probably the best novelization that I have in my collection. So if you can find a copy on eBay, I would definitely recommend giving this a read, especially if you're a fan of the movie, which if you like science fiction films, I'm sure you are. Okay, the next one is Back to the Future 2, which is written by Craig Shaw Gardner. And I bought this in anticipation of the movie because I just loved Back to the Future so much. I was just so intrigued to see what they were going to do with the plot, especially with taking Marty into the future. So this was kind of a no-brainer buy for me. So this would have been 1989 that I bought this book. You'll see all of these have got like proper plastic sleeves that I bought just to try and keep them nice and tidy. A lot of these are quite old books now, so some of them have, this one's fine, but there's some that have quite, dirty pages where they've been stored in various places over the years. So the next one is Randall Frake's novelization of Terminator 2 Judgment Day. So again, massive fan, same story. I was a big fan of the first Terminator. I loved Aliens. I loved The Abyss. So when James Cameron announced that he was making a sequel to Terminator, I was, I couldn't wait to see it. So it was a no-brainer for me to buy the novelization and, read up on it before I saw the movie. And again, much like with RoboCop, I would have read this multiple times after I'd seen the movie. This one is actually a more recent purchase. I did have the another version of this book that I must have been bought way back when I was a lot younger, in the late 70s. And I can remember having it and I can remember reading it, but it just got so ratty. I think it just the sheer age of the previous copy that I had, the pages were falling out and it was in awful condition. Luckily, I managed to find another copy on eBay of the same vintage that was in a much nicer condition. So this is the original one with the nice photos and information in the middle. I always like it when novelizations have photographs in the middle. And the three novelizations of the original Star Wars trilogy did. So I will just quickly leaf through those for people that are interested as to what those pictures were. I read this many times as a kid. A great book. It's got George Lucas as the author. Again, much like Star Trek the Motion Picture, I believe this is been ghostwritten by Alan Dean Foster. I mentioned Star Trek the Motion Picture. I've got that in my pile somewhere, which I'll show you in a moment. But I think that's credited to Gene Roddenberry. But it was actually written by Alan Dean Foster. So that's Star Wars. And then following Star Wars, we have The Empire Strikes Back with a silly hands-off sticker stuck on the front of it, which I must have done way back when I was, like 11, 12 years old. This is, unlike Star Wars, this is my original copy. So, it's kept in pretty good condition. I seem to remember, it's funny how you remember things like this, that there was a mark on the cover that always annoyed me. And I must have got this sticker from somewhere and thought that it would look better. It's funny how you think when you're a kid that would have been better than leaving the scuff mark on show. But, there's no way I can take that off now. It's been on there for over 40 years. If I tried to peel that off, it would just make the cover even worse. So this was written by Donald F. Glut. And again, I'll just quickly leaf through them. It has actually got photographs from the movie. So I can remember seeing this in the school library and wanting my own copy. And I managed to get a copy a couple of months after. But I can remember, being in the school library, just spending a lunch break, just poring over the few pictures that are in this book. So yeah, that's Empire Strikes Back. This next one is one of the few novelizations that I actually remember buying. Obviously, Return of the Jedi, massive, massive movie in 1983. I was absolutely dying to see it. I ended up seeing it in the cinema 3 times. And I can remember going into our local town with my sister, and she bought me this book, which was very nice of her. She probably doesn't even remember who she sees this, but she did. And I then took it home Saturday afternoon, and I spent all of the afternoon and all of that evening reading the entire book. So, not bad for a 13-year-old to get through a book in that short space of time. But some of it was funny. I remember visualizing some of the things described in the book. And then when I saw the movie, it was completely different to how I pictured it. But obviously that's the case. But, much like the first 2 Star Wars novels, I read it multiple times after I saw the movie. Again, I'll go through the pictures inside. So you can bet as an early teenager, I would have spent a lot of time looking at these pictures. Especially any picture with Carrie Fisher in. My God, I had such a crush on Carrie Fisher in the early 80s. It was unbelievable. I've got a really sad story about that, actually, which, if you're interested to know, a really embarrassing story about having a picture of Carrie Fisher in my pocket, and it dropped out onto the floor when I was in a lesson in secondary school, and the teacher picked it up and berated me in front of all the kids. Okay, the next one, The Goonies. This is a more recent buy. I did not buy this back in 1985. I've just always been a massive fan of the Goonies movie, as I'm sure most people around my age are. And I just wanted the novelization of it. I thought it'd be a fun little thing to add to my collection of books. And it was a good read. Who was this written by? Where's the author? Novelization by, James Caan. James Caan wrote the book I've just shown you. He also did the Return of the Jedi novelization. So yeah, good book, good film. Happy to have it in my collection. Next, I've got the novelization of License to Kill by John Gardner. John Gardner is actually went on to write an original James Bond book, which I've also got. And as I'm sat here recording this, I can't for the life of me remember what it was called, but I have got it. It is in my collection. Again, The Living Daylights is possibly my favorite Bond movie out of all of them. So when the License to Kill was coming up, I picked this up as soon as I could so I could read it and, just know the story before I saw the movie. So, yeah, I'm happy to have this in my collection. I don't believe they did a novelization of License to Kill. If they did, please let me know, because I'd love to own a copy of it, but I don't think they did. Okay, the next one is the 1987 movie Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I bought this. I've had this since 1987. Again, love the film. I must have bought this after I saw the movie. I don't think I would have bought this beforehand. It must have been one of those where I got to see the movie I'd have probably been underage, actually, because I would have been 17 in 1987. But anyone that watched my introductory video will know that I had an aunt that ran the local cinema, so she would have snuck me in. It would have been fine. So yeah, I would have bought the book of that because I love the film so much. Paul Manette, not an author I'm familiar with. So the next one is the book of my favourite film of all time, Alien, by Alan Dean Foster. You can probably tell by the condition, this is a more recent copy that doesn't have the photographs in the middle of it, unfortunately. I did have a original copy, but like my Star Wars novelization, it was really ratty and just falling to bits. I managed to salvage the photographs, which I've kept somewhere. I've got them stored somewhere. I really should tuck them inside here somehow. So obviously, because it's my favorite movie, I wanted to keep the novelization. So I ended up buying a new copy. Luckily, it's still got the same cover and design of the copy that I had back in the early 80s. Okay, the next book is Aliens, again by Alan Dean Foster. He's like the king of novelizations. If ever I bought a novelization and he was the author of it, I knew it would be a good fast read. He was very good at taking a screenplay and making it readable. For the members of the public, he was really good at that. And again, favorite film of all time. When Aliens was coming out, I just knew I had to buy the book and just read it, multiple times before I saw the movie. I remember how he describes the power loader fight with the alien queen at the end. You've got to remember, I will have read this book before the movie came out and before I saw any stills from that movie. So my visualization of what that power loader looked like was was completely different to how it came out in the movie. So it was quite a revelation to see it actually on screen. So again, I would have read this multiple times. No pictures in the middle, unfortunately. But yeah, damn good read. So Alan Dean Foster again, Alien 3. Wasn't a massive fan of Alien 3 when I first saw it. I have grown to appreciate it more the older that I get. I did buy the novelization of it, but I'm kind of thinking by then I would have been in my very early 20s, and maybe my thinking was I'll buy the book just because I've got the other two to kind of complete the trilogy. I did read it, but I don't think I've read it more than once. But again, I'm happy to have it in my collection. Okay, the next one is Craig Shaw Gardner's Back to the Future Part 3. So much like I said with the second one, after reading the novelization of the second one and seeing it at the movies with the cliffhanger that Doc Brown was in the Old West, I just wanted to know, how that story unfolded. And if he had gone to the Old West in the DeLorean, how did Marty get the DeLorean back to go back in time to the Old West himself? That's what I wanted to be explained to me. And that's why I bought the book, and find out how they did that. So again, much like the second one, a good fast read. I probably read it, a second time after I saw the movie. So yeah, pleased to have it. This will be the third novelization that I had to rebuy, which is the novelization of Star Trek the Motion Picture. Credit to Eugene Roddenberry, but as I've already said, this is actually ghostwritten by Alan Dean Foster. I really like Star Trek the Motion Picture. Pretty much all of the movies that I talk about in this book list, you can bet at some point in the future I'm going to be doing videos about them individually. And I like Star Trek the Motion Picture. And I know it gets a lot of stick and people call it really boring, but I actually think it's a real gem, and it's a true Star Trek movie. I just love it. I just love it. So yeah, and the book, and it has pictures in the middle, which I'll quickly show you. You can see what I mean about how this one's been stored, and it's had a bit of water damage, but it's fine. As I say, this one I had to rebuy because the other one that I had was a copy that a friend gave me, and it was already in a sorry state. But I managed to find another copy on eBay that was in much better condition. So yeah, I bought it again. If I have a book and the pages are falling out, then that's like alarm bells for I really need to try and get another copy of this. There's the photos. Okay, so that's Star Trek the Motion Picture. And then we have Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, written by Vonda McIntyre. And I believe Vonda McIntyre did the Star Trek novelizations of the other two movies after this. I'll double check when I grab the book. So big fan of all the Star Trek movies, especially the first four of the old Star Trek. I'm not talking about the Next Generation movies. So I had to get the Star Trek novelizations of these. I remember that when I was a teenager, we lived next door to a family, and they had a son. He was a few years younger than me, but we had similar interests, so we spent a lot of time hanging out and playing and things. And he had some Star Trek and science fiction books, and he had this book, and I swapped it in for one of my books. So this was actually his, but I can't remember what book I swapped for it. It couldn't have been anything too important. So here we go with Star Trek 3. So yeah, this is Vonda McIntyre as well. No pictures in the middle. But as with Star Trek 2, it was interesting to see how the story was going to unfold. So I had to pick it up just for that reason. So yeah, nice book. Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home, Vonda McIntyre again. Yeah, no pictures in the middle. When I heard that they were going back in time to what would then have been, modern day, and I was so crazy about that idea. I thought it was a brilliant concept just to see the crew that we know so well in an environment that we know so well. So I had to buy the book just for that, to see how the story panned out, and it was a good fast read, and it's probably the most watched Star Trek movie for me out of all of them. So, I probably read the book a couple of times. Okay, so the next one is a very highly anticipated movie back in 1989, Tim Burton's Batman. I definitely remember buying this, written by Craig Shaw Gardner, who did the Back to the Future novelizations. I definitely remember buying this, and I was absolutely desperate to see Batman, as was anybody around that time. I've got a few other Batman books. I've got a couple of books about the making of it, I'm sure. So yeah, this was a must buy for me. I can remember taking this to work and reading it in my lunch breaks back in the day. So again, nice to have photos in the middle. So it was always nice to look at these after you'd seen the movie, and it reminded you of certain scenes and things. So yeah, good one. And of course, if I'd got that, I had to get Batman Returns. I don't think there's any pictures in this one. No, there isn't. And this is also written by Craig Shaw Gardner. So yeah, a lot of love for Batman Returns. As a movie, it looks beautiful. Tim Burton really got into his stride with Batman Returns in terms of the visuals. And, it was before I wanted to know what the plot was, read through it, watched the movie multiple times, and probably read this maybe once more after that. I don't ever remember reading it many times since then. Okay, this next one I was very excited to pick up. This is Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, written by a chap called Simon Green. This is a more recent buy. I've always been a big fan of Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. I still remember fondly when it came out, and everybody was talking about it. It was one of those, have you seen this movie yet? And yeah, and I've always liked it as a film. It's always been one of my favorites. And it was only within, say, the last 10 years that I thought, I haven't got the novelization of that. And I knew that they did one because I remember my friend telling me that they'd read the book of it. So luckily I was able to pick up a copy that's in reasonable condition. It's a little bit dog-eared, but, I've got it in a cover, so hopefully it'll stay. It won't get worse as the years pass by. So I'm happy to have that. Again, this is another eBay pickup, novelisation of The Black Hole. I've always liked The Black Hole. I think as a science fiction movie, it gets a bit of a bad rap, and people, tend to say that it was like Disney's attempt at cashing in on the Star Wars craze, and this is the best that they could think of. But I have very vivid memories of seeing this in the cinema, and I won't tell a story about that now. I'm going to save it for when I do a video of this. I think I'm going to do a hidden gem video about The Black Hole, because it is a bit of a hidden gem. It doesn't get the love that it deserves as far as I'm concerned. But I have very strong memories of seeing this in the cinema when I was 9, which I'll talk about when I do the hidden gem video for it. So yeah, The Black Hole, Alan Dean Foster. Again, good fast read, not very long book. Another eBay pickup was the novelisation of Dark Star. Dark Star, the first time I saw Dark Star was back when I was in secondary school, and we had a teacher that ran a movie club. I'll just show the pictures in the middle while I'm saying this. And he would show a science fiction movie once a week after school, and you had to buy a ticket to go, for like 20 pence or whatever it was. And I remember the first week of this movie club staying back after school, and there was like 10 of us sat in a classroom with a television and a video recorder on a stand with wheels on, like they would wheel into the classroom. And he put Dark Star on, and it was the first time I saw Dark Star, and I remember just absolutely falling in love with it. And managed to get a copy of it and recorded it off television when it was shown on television, and since bought the special edition DVD. I've not bought the Blu-ray because I've got the DVD, and I think the Blu-ray didn't improve the quality too much. But yeah, so I thought it could be interesting to buy the novelisation of that. And there we go, Alan Dean Foster. So we're down to the last 3 books now, and they're all from the same movie series. And it's Raiders of the Lost Ark. And this was written by Campbell Black. You'll see this has a sticker on it that's got the name Christopher on it. In fact, the next one has the same sticker on. This is my neighbour. This is the lad that I used to live next door to. So I must have traded a couple of books with him. And I'm so glad I did, because I think some of these are quite hard to find now. And it's just a nice fast read from what I remember. Again, because I've seen the movie probably over 100 times, I probably don't have the impetus to go back and read the novelisation because I know the movie so well. But I'm not going to get rid of it. I'm glad I've got the book. And exactly the same goes for Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. There's a sticker that I was talking about. This is probably my favourite Indiana Jones film, which is quite divisive. I know a lot of people consider it the weakest entry, but I always liked Temple of Doom. I just like the voodoo parts of it, and the thuggy cult storyline, and the whole thing with the minecart chase and going onto the rope bridge at the end. And I just think it's a really good movie. And it's got a special place in my heart. So yeah, I'm really pleased I've got the book of that. And the last book in my novelisation collection, surprise, surprise, is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Who's this written by? Somebody called Rob McGregor. This has the pictures in the middle. So yeah, I definitely remember buying this from, I think it was John Menzies, as it was back in the day. And this was before I saw the movie. So I can remember looking at some of these pictures and trying to imagine what the action sequences would be, involving these pictures. So yeah, voraciously read this book a few times before I saw the movie. And I can actually remember thinking, and this is really sad saying this, but I can remember looking at this photo as like a 19-year-old and thinking, oh, bless him, Harrison Ford's starting to look a bit older now. But he certainly looks older now. But yeah, he looks better than I did at that age, that's for damn sure. Right, so there we are. So that is my novelization collection.